Okay, hi everyone. So I'm Smithy Q, and we've got a game analysis today. This is a game that was played between two ChessGoals members as part of our classical tournament. So we try and arrange games between different ChessGoals members to play a long time control game, so that way we get that much needed practice. This game is really interesting, and I think it's worth diving in. Both players are in kind of that mushy middle. They're not beginners, but they haven't yet crossed that intermediate plateau. So I would like to A, just look at this game, and then B, try and point out some ideas for where we can dig in deeper. Let's get started. So the white started with e4, and I'm sure you'll be shocked to know that black played the Caro-Kann. And then we soon reached here. Can you believe it? People playing Caro-Kann on the ChessGoals channel. Actually, full disclosure, I don't know the Caro-Kann theory at all. I know I'm a heretic, so I'm just going to jump ahead to right around here. In the game, white continued his development nice and normal with bishop d3, even though that's going to end up losing the pawn. Just for the record, the main move is actually c3, setting a really insidious trap. It looks like black can take it. You can't take back because of the pin, but actually there's this lovely queen a4 check. The knight's no longer pinned. It's going to take it next turn. Again, if you drop back, whoops. Let's see if I can actually do it. Aha, you're going to lose the bishop. And if you block with the queen, that allows something even worse. So that's why in this position, c3, setting that really nasty trap, scores really well. Anyway, after bishop d3, that's fine. But now, black is going to be able to take that pawn. Take, exchange the knight, takes the pawn. Now, it's not the end of the world. White had won the pawn on c5 earlier, and now he's just giving back the e5 pawn. So material is actually equal. Bishop and the queen are being attacked, so let's move that out of the way. Knight drops back. Let's start right here. Just for the record, we're approaching move 10. This is a game that's 30 plus 30, so it's 30 minutes and then a 30-second increment. And I want to notice that both players are above 30 minutes. They've been absolutely blitzing out their moves. And if we look at the next move with knight c3, played, again, basically blitzing it out. Is knight c3 the best move? Or, said another way, what should we be noticing in a position like this? How should we be trying to think? Because that's really what we want to do. When we're playing these games and we're looking back, it's how do we find the best moves? What should be our thought process? And I would like to suggest the white player who played knight c3 very quickly. That's fine. Did you consider something like c4? Using the pawns to open up the position. Because we're going to castle very quickly, black is not going to castle very quickly in either direction. It looks very hard. And so opening the position up seems like a really interesting strategy, something to consider. Instead, you played knight c3. And now, this is following our opening principles. We're developing our pieces. That's right. The problem is that the knight is staring at a pawn that's fully protected, and this square is occupied by a piece, and this square is also protected. Let's see if I can do that better. Aha. And so the knight doesn't really have any real future here. Whereas by playing c4, we're trying to open things up. Anyway, black plays a6, taking the bishop back, and then continuing with c6. Again, very quickly. I would just like to mention at this point, the reason that we play these long time controlled games is that we really get a chance to think, to dive into some of these positions. And I feel, certainly for the next 6 to 7 moves, perhaps both players could have, well, taken a deeper dive into these positions. Because I think there's more ideas than you perhaps gave it credit for. c6 is interesting. It's this counterattack, we're not moving our bishop, we're just trying to power through. But was there anything wrong with just moving back? Keeping the pin. We're never really worried about this because we got en passant. And now our bishop is nice and happy. There's still that pin. Everything's okay. And then, let's say, I don't know, we do something like this. Maybe we can play b4, trying to protect this pawn. And the queen side, the king side. You know what? This is interesting. Going back, we played c6, less than a minute think. Okay, that does mean we give up this bishop and open that a file. take, take. And then white, what does white do very quickly? Castles queenside. Very brave to castle when we've got these open files staring right at the king. At the same time, white does have a lead in development, and so, hey, makes sense. Let's go on through. Black plays bishop to d6. Now white, with his next move, plays, if I could do it, aha, h4, and he plays it approximately a minute. There's some other ideas in here that I would like you to consider. And again, the reason I'm harping on this sort of the time control element is that when you play so quickly, we miss the chance to look at some other moves. What's our advantage as white? Our advantage is our lead in time. In particular, our king is already castled, black's is not. So black's is potentially weak, right? Imagine if we could open the center up somehow. Imagine for a second, knight takes d5. It's not the best move, but you know what? It's a very close evaluation to what the computer considers the best move. Take, take. Now look at this. We've got a rook ready to come over on e-file. That's wide open. This bishop, which before was looking absolutely safe, it's now in a pin. If the bishop moves, you're going to lose the queen. Black needs to find a way to defend that bishop. And if he's busy defending that bishop, let's say, rook goes to d8. After rook a1, black is in... Okay, let me just show you two more moves. Knight e7, getting ready to castle. Bishop c5. Wow. Incredible. And now the line can go even further. Throws in this check. Uh-oh. Did we just blunder? King goes to b1, queen takes d5. Well, it turns out the development matters. We can take, king moves, and then a key move. Oh, discover check to the king, coming back. And if, imagine something like this. Wouldn't that be a fantastic way to finish this game off? Not all that was forced. But that shows how things could have happened if we were thinking, let's get to the king. It's a sacrifice. It's very close to the best move. And it makes the rest of white's moves, we've got a very clear plan. Go straight towards the king. And do you notice how much pressure this puts on black? A lot of pressure. How do you find this? By focusing on the king and spending more than 1 minute on the move. Let's go back. I think knight takes d5, it's certainly a move that I would consider. But it's not the only move. And it's not the only way to try and get to the king. What if we tried something like queen goes to g4? Hitting that pawn. And how do we see this? Well, it's because, backing up, when this bishop is here, it's defending that pawn no problem. As soon as the bishop moves, well, now that pawn's weak. And g4 is available because the knight isn't developed. Black is behind in time. Queen goes to g4, attack the pawn. And one of the ideas that we want to do is just create weaknesses. For example, let's just say he plays g6. Let's put our bishop on this diagonal, hitting the queen. Okay, maybe black will play e5, looking to exchange queens. We can jump back e2, and look, the position is opening up. If black might be forced to play f6 to try and keep some pawns together, we've got f4, we've got rook goes to e1. Again, our king is safe. It's his king that's going to be in the crosshair. This was a possibility. It'd be very easy for black to make mistakes coming forward. Do you see how you're putting more pressure on our opponent? How do we find this? By realizing that his king is weak. We've got the lead in time. Sorry, not that his king is weak, but rather we're castled, we have a lead in time, we need to use it somehow. He hasn't castled, but let's make it hard for him. Both of those ideas, the queen g4 trying to probe for weaknesses, or knight takes d5 opening it, they come. You're not going to just see that instantly. You need to dig into these positions. And that's the real beauty of these long games, is they give us that opportunity to do so. Now white plays h4. And that's similar. And I think white, you realized what was happening is that, yeah, you've got a lead in time, and so you're going to try and expand on the king side, because you assume he's going to try and castle there. Black is going to eventually castle kingside, and so you want to get the attack going. And you're right in a sense. That is what you want to do. These other ideas, I think, are more accurate ways of going about that. And again, just investing a little bit of more time, just a little bit, 2 minutes, 2.5, 3, might give you an idea to explore these. All right, so black now plays b4, hitting our knight. And what does white do? Very quickly plays knight e2. Very quickly. I'm going to suggest too quickly. You saw the attack, and then you retreated. What do we want to do instead? Or what's an idea? What should you have at least considered, spent some time calculating? Again, his king's in the center. It's the perfect opportunity to come on in here. And again, we're giving black essentially rope to hang himself in this position. All right? Very, very interesting. And then, of course, the other problem is after b4, you just move our knight really passively. Well, that gives black, he's not facing any problems. And so, well, he just knobs that pawn. Nom, nom, nom. Okay. And now our king is kind of in the crosshair. We played b3. And then black, he plays knight f6 after a minute's thought. Black, can I pick on you for a second? Not so much to pick, but I would like to suggest in a position like this, where you've got the rook staring at the king, you've got all these open files, there's some potential for a knockout blow. And perhaps you were looking for that, because you did spend a minute before you played knight f6. Perhaps you could have thought just a little bit longer, because queen goes to c7 is an absolute knockout blow. Threatening checkmate in 1. Okay. And once you see this, and most importantly, once you see how there's not really a good way to stop that. For example, after simply rook goes to d2, well, we're going to go check. And we pick up a rook. That's pretty nice. Okay. So rook d2 doesn't work. Maybe knight goes to d4, defending. But now the knight is no longer protecting c3. Queen goes to c3, and now it's a1 that's going to be the problem. In fact, the computer, I think, says that king goes to b2 and just running away is the only thing. Ouch. And so if you were to find black in this position, again, you've got a rook staring at the king. You've got this open c-file. Open c-file. Aha, I can draw arrows. If you were to focus on that, you could have ended the game instantly. But you played knight f6. Okay, that's fine. What happens next? We got king b1, kicks him away. Not too problem with that. Knight d4, bringing knight. I would have castled first, but you know what? That's fine. King goes to b2, castles, g4. And so white, again, you're down material. You're down 2 pawns, but you're doing the right thing. You're trying to create problems for black. Developing your pieces, you're putting your pieces on forward squares, and you're getting ready to launch forward with these pawns. I think that's the best practical decision. Black, you played bishop e5. And you spent, about a minute on this move, which is good. Both players are using more of their time now as the game gets more into the middle game. Other possibilities. Again, it seems for the rest of this game, the black player, you basically never use the c-file. I think you were incredibly tunneled vision here. And that makes a lot of sense. Because the file is right open. We've already got a rook there. Let's try and invade. And we can see that through the game. Again, something like queen goes to c7, getting the queen into c3 would just be absolutely devastating. The computer calls it absolutely lights out. The other option that jumps out to me is to throw the rook over and just invade over here. Nonetheless, bishop e5, and then what I really want to focus on is this. Bishop f4, and then black simply takes the bishop. And so to recap, if we're after the g4 move, let me just delete these arrows. Black plays bishop e5, and then exchanges that bishop off. So we ended up spending 2 tempi to move that bishop and just do absolutely nothing with it. 2 tempi which we could have been using to further our attack in some way, right? And then just more fundamentally, about a year ago, I released a video on this channel about tension, about holding the tension, about the side that releases the tension tends to, well, do poorly. And this basically means, when in doubt, or if it's possible to not initiate an exchange, an uneven exchange, then we should try to, do it. It should be our last thought. Is there a way that we could not play bishop takes f4? Or is there another move that we could do? What if we were to play rook goes to a8? This has got a very obvious threat. We're threatening this. And so, well, you can't take the bishop because after check, check, oh, you can't escape. Rooks come in. That's mate. Okay. And this entire time, White's idea, since he played king goes to b2, was to have the rook come on over. So that way you could contest the a file. We'll actually see that later in the game. But this doesn't work because now, oh, the knight hangs with check. And that's, again, down a piece. That's GG. That'd be the whole game. And so what I'm trying to say is that playing this move, because I'm pretty sure in the game, let me just back up, we had bishop b5, and then we took, and then we're going to bring the rook over. Had we changed the move order, had you brought the rook over first, you're giving White a huge chance to blunder. And then, in it, like a really easy way. And this is, again, that thought process I'm trying to talk about, is we don't want to release the tension, if at all possible. So thinking about that way, you might have been able to find this attacking move. And then it's kind of a really unfortunate end of the game, is that after rook takes a rook, is black found the one move that loses, unfortunately. Rook takes. And this is such an easy trap to fall into. As black, we've been doing well the entire time. Unfortunately, now we have a weak back rank. And then that's game. We let the guard down just for that little bit. And I wish I had, a solution for this. I don't. I've done this, too many times to count. I know Matt's done it too many times to count. Something about back rank mates, eh? It's simply keeping that sort of sense of danger all throughout. It's really unfortunate. But regardless of how this all happened, I hope I was able to share how there's a lot of hidden ideas that were there earlier on that many people in this beginner to intermediate range, they just speed through. They're blitzing out their moves because they've played these openings, they've played these middle games countless times. There can be a lot of interesting ideas if you dig down. And often it just takes a small investment, just more than a minute. You've got half an hour. You got lots of time. Dig in, and you'll often find nuggets of gold in there. So I hope that helped. Again, there's lots of really interesting games that are played in our classical tournament. I thought this one really, really stood out, and I thought it deserved a video shout out. Great job, both players. I hope I gave you some ideas to continue, because that's really our goal, is we want to be able to continually improve and get better. And I think this is a great one. Good job, and I think it was worth sharing. So I think that's going to do that. So thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.